Hey, what's up everyone? Today I'm going to be looking at how to build Euclidean rhythms and sequencing using the Euclidean rhythms using the Digitakt II. Okay, so before we go any further, let me just cut in the final track. So wherever we end up, this is what we're going for. There you go. So just occurs to me that you know what this sounds like and I don't know yet, but the magic of video. All right, let's get into it. So this is a feature that's new with the Digitakt II. I don't believe it was on the Digitakt I. I did a pretty thorough tutorial of that. You can check it out on my page. So I wanted to, that obviously really interested me because it was brand new and I really like making polyrhythms and Euclidean sequencing and using those types of methods on my Eurorack setup. So I'm going to structure this video just a little bit differently than some of my other videos in the past where I've kind of just gone through it. What I want to do here is just start with a clean project. Right now it's just a completely empty preset, or it's a completely empty pattern, and I'm going to build it up from scratch. So I hope by doing it that way, it's a little bit more interesting to watch, and throughout I can kind of explain some things. Some of the feedback I got from my last tutorial was that a lot of people commented saying that I was moving too fast. So I'm going to try and take things really slow on this one and go through it pretty methodically and try and explain as deeply as possible. If you think I'm going too fast, or want further explanation, definitely let me know. But all right, let's jump in. So I've got a brand new pattern set up. The first thing I'm going to do, and I suggest doing this with all of your new patterns or projects, is that you just give it a name. And so if we go to the settings menu and go down to pattern, we can go rename, and we could go through and actually give it a name, but considering I don't even really know what it's going to sound like yet, I noticed that it has this settings random button. I don't think I've ever done that before, but if you click settings, it gives you, it auto generates some random names for you. So idealistic clue, that's actually kind of a cool name, but I want to just show you materialistic X, renewable kind, seventh thunk, and attachable deed, realistic burst. All right, that's it. That's what I'm going to go ahead and use for this time. I'm probably going to change it later once I have a better idea of what it sounds like. So we'll save that. We got realistic burst. And the next thing I'm going to do is load up a kit. And so if you don't know this, you can go to this button right here. I think it's the presets and kit button. I can't remember what it's actually called in the manual, but if you push this button, you can load your different sound presets, which I also got to say, I'm so happy that Digitakt on the Digitakt II moved away from naming the presets sounds. I thought that was really confusing for a lot of people, so I think it's much better that they're just calling them presets now. But either way, so we're going to load up this kit, and you can see that it has all the kits that are in the preset patterns that come with it. And then down at the bottom, I have one that I made called Euclid that I was going to do for this project, and it's loaded. So we can get out of that menu, and this is what it sounds like. So I just changed all the drum samples. They're all stuff that comes pre-stocked with it. The only thing, I think I have a couple of samples in here. That one might be mine. That one's definitely mine. That's something that I loaded up. That's like just sort of an ambient piano sound. But the rest, that's just a saw wave, and then these are just all of the drums are stuff that comes preloaded and the other stuff too. So to access our Euclidean rhythms, we go to the sequencer function, secondary function. So you hold down function, press amp, and you get to the Euclidean menu. Now, I gotta say, I'm pretty excited too because I know that the Digitakt II received many updates from Electron throughout its lifespan, and they filled in a lot of the different sub-menus with new things. I think the last one was the one where they put out the machines. So the fact that this is called sequencer, and right now the only sequencer function is Euclidean, it makes me think that there might be some updates down the road and some further submenus. But that's all speculation. I have no reason to actually believe that other than just suspicion. So once you're in this menu, if you go to a specific track, so let's go to track 1. Let's just start with our kick drum sound. With Euclidean mode off, which is right here, you know, this functions just as normal as you would place your trigs down. And when you turn on the Euclidean mode by turning this knob, your recording button turns blue. So that's how you know you're in Euclidean mode. If you turn it off, all the trigs that you put in there are saved. They stay there. So, you know, you don't have to worry about losing data or anything like that. But let's go ahead and turn it on and talk a little bit about what Euclidean rhythms are. So basically, what they do is they take the full sequence or the full length of time that you're going to be subdividing into beats, and you choose the number of triggers, or in this case, pulses, that will happen in that time, and it spaces out totally evenly. So what that means in this case is that there's 16 steps in the sequence. So if we turn on one pulse, it will happen on the first beat every single time through. If we turn on 2, well, 16 divided by 2 is 8, so it will happen right there, number 1 and number 9, because those are evenly spaced out. Now it starts getting a little bit more interesting when you start getting into higher numbers and odd numbers. Like for instance, 3, 16 obviously can't be divided by 3. So what ends up happening, it tries to space it out. Now in a true Euclidean pattern, you wouldn't even really have steps like this. You would have amount of time that it took to pass by, and those pulses would be spread out completely evenly. However, this is quantized a little bit, and actually for the vast majority of Euclidean sequencing in music, like in modular setups, they quantize it and will push those beats to certain, to the nearest step. I suppose you could do some micro timing, but this really just makes it more musical, and you can still get like some pretty cool polyrhythms and things like that. So if you can see, 3, if you keep turning it up, 4, it obviously spaces them out 4, 5. When you start to get into the higher numbers, you'll even see some of these patterns auto-generate to go side by side. Cool, so that in a nutshell is what a Euclidean rhythm is. Now, what's cool about the Digitakt is you can take it one step further in that you have, so the PL, it's a pulse generator. I don't know exactly why it's L. If you have any thoughts on that, let me know, but it's listed in the manual as a pulse generator. And oftentimes you'll see Euclidean stuff listed as trigs. But there are 2 for each track. So you have pulse generator 1, pulse generator 2. And what's neat is you can apply some logic functions to those as well. So for instance, right now, as you turn it, the yellow ones are the active ones. So let's go 5 and 3. And you'll notice that like the 5 is the 1, the 5, the 8, the 11 and the 14 right there. And the 3 is the 1, the 7, the 12. So down here you have some logic stuff. And so you notice it says OR. If you turn it, your other options are XOR, and subtraction, 1 minus 2. So what those basically do are take things out. So OR is saying it will trigger if there's a trig on either 1 or 2. So basically it adds them together. And that's why right here, let's look at some of the others. And what's neat about this is it actually changes what's happening here. So XOR stands for exclusive OR. And what that means is that it's going to be the same thing as OR, where if there is a trigger from either of the pulse generators, then it'll trigger, with the exception of when they are both layered on top of each other. And you can see in this case that the only ones that were layered on top of each other was the first step. So when I turn to XOR, it disappears. When I turn it back to OR, it reappears. And then the flip side of that is AND. Now this one will only trigger when both of the triggers are layered on top of each other. So we have only step 1. And then the last one is similar to XOR, but it's number 1 subtracting number 2. So what that does is it takes the first sequence, and then whenever they're layered on top of it, each other, it deletes it. The only difference between XOR and 1 minus 2 is that XOR will have the other triggers from pulse generator 2 that are not layered on top of 1. This one is only number 1, but subtracting number 2. And after I get through all this basic stuff, I'm going to show you some kind of cool ways and approaches that I use with these, and that's how I'm going to program this track we're going to make with using cool numbers and things like that. So just bear with me through this. So these last few options that you have are rotating the tracks a little bit. So I'm going to bring it down to, this is just pulse generator 1 now. You can rotate it, basically move it forward. So right now at 0, that's triggered, and then if you move 1, it goes here, and it just shifts everything down. That will shift pulse generator 2, and then the third one will just shift the whole thing, so both of them together. And that's it. That's how you use this this page. I'm going to show you some fun techniques that are beyond just like using the Digitakt, but just techniques for using Euclidean rhythms that I think are kind of cool. So, and I'll guide you through how we do it on the Digitakt. All right, let's make a rhythm now. So one idea to make these polyrhythms that I've explored a lot with my Eurorack setup is to use prime numbers as a basis for generating all these rhythms. And the big reason you use prime numbers is because prime numbers are only subdivided by themselves in 1. So what ends up happening is if you have these triggers and use prime numbers to choose, to make your choices, to drive your decision making, you get these sequences that end up being much longer before they repeat. Let me show you what I mean. We're going to kind of push this to the nth degree. Sometimes when I do this type of thing, I like to have like a grounding kick on the beat. With this track, I think I'm just going to plow through and show you this, and then you can dial it back in your own music if you want to experiment with this. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the whole sequence length to an odd time, so that it's not just like 16 or 32 or something like that. So to change the steps in the sequence, you press function and page, and we can change it right here. So I'm actually going to bring it up to 29. So it's just short of, 32. It's a prime number. 29 steps. Oh, I should point this out too. Actually, before I get there, if we go back down to 16, I just want to show this to you. If I generate, let's say 4. If I generate 4 steps with 16 steps, if you increase the length of the sequence, unlike in normal trig mode where it would just copy those trigs onto the next page, this one, because we're taking the total time and subdividing it out, what ends up happening is it stretches it further. So 4 trigs, and then if we go into here and turn it up to 32, you'll notice that now we have just the triggers here and here, and then again on the next page. And that's because the total length stretched out and it's still evenly subdividing it. So that's just something to be aware of here. So let's turn it back down to 0, and I'm gonna go here and go back to our idea of we're just gonna stick with prime numbers. We're only gonna use prime numbers. All right, 29 steps, let's get out of here, and let's just start plugging in rhythms. So track number 1, prime number 5. There we go. All right, snare. Let's listen. That's my snare sound. So we'll do our snare, turn on Euclidean rhythms, and we'll go up to 7. I'm just gonna go ahead and plug in some more prime numbers. This one, let's see, hi-hat sound, Euclidean rhythms, and we'll go up to 11. All right. And it's like an open hi-hat. So, you know what? Let's just do 2 with this one because I don't want it to be very many. Now, you notice it's just on the 1st and the 16th step. Okay, next track, number 5. It's like a tom sound. And we'll do this one. Let's do this one at 7 as well. But because we did 7 with the snares and I don't want them on the same track or same place, let's move it up. We'll shift it by 5. So that's what that looks like. And then our snare will be like that. I might even want to shift it up by like 7 or something. So you can already kind of hear that kind of polyrhythmic vibe as it's going through. Number 6, let's do the same thing. Let's just do a 2. I'm gonna rotate this one as well because we had done 2 with something else. Nice. You see how easy this is? I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's so cool to use these is because it kind of auto-generates these rhythms for you. And when you have all of these different sounds going and you can set them all to different rhythms, it's just a really easy way to make really intricate rhythms just like really fast. All right, so track 7. Let's do some logic with this one. We'll do 7 and 3, and this one we'll do an XOR. So it just takes out a few of them. Track 7 is like a clap sound. Nice. And then we'll go to track 8. It's like that clicking, I don't know, like a wood block kind of thing. And sticking to the prime numbers thing, go 5 and 7. You don't have to stick to prime numbers either, but this was just something that I think is a kind of neat idea. I explored this a lot with the subharmonicon, and I just like using it. So see if that goes too much, and we can turn this to logic if we need it. I think it's pretty cool. And we can add some, we're going to add some other things with modulation sources and stuff like that. So let's keep going. Right down here, it's like a bass sound. I made this just using a saw sample that was preloaded. When you do that, you want to set your playback to loop so you can hold it. But we're going to do Euclidean rhythms with that too. So, and then we'll program in some type of sequence. So let's turn on that. We'll go to sequencer, Euclidean, and we'll have this one be 9. So we want it to play a little bit more often. Nice. And that will sound really great too when we plug in some notes. We'll plug in some simple notes to kind of define something harmonically. Track 10. I think this was a sequence that I loaded up. I mean, a sample that I loaded up, but I can't remember. Either way, it sounds to me like a kind of tined piano. Maybe something like a Fender Rhodes or something like that. Kind of like a vintage electric piano. For this one, let's have it going a lot, and we'll change the notes. So we're gonna add in a lot of trigs. We'll do 9, and we might as well do some logic too. So we'll do 13. Maybe, actually, that might be good. It's not that many triggers, but pretty cool though, and it has the delay kind of clicking in, so you know, I guess it does kind of fill out the sound quite a bit. So let's go on. I love that modulation. It sounds almost like a distorted guitar-ish kind of thing. But I don't want to play this one too much, so we'll go to 13. Turn on Euclidean rhythms. That's what it'll be like. Nice. Very cool. You know, I think I'm going to leave that one out. I actually feel like we've got enough at this point, but I want to add in that piano sound that I had. So we'll just add in that, and let's do number 11. Just to hold down the melody, we'll have it playing a little bit higher. And very cool stuff. So at this point, we've got, 12 tracks, the 8 up here, 9, 10, 11. I skipped 12 and I did 13. So we've got 12 tracks all with Euclidean rhythms. And really at this point, I guess we could try to make some sort of melodies or just notes. So we'll leave the drum patterns alone. Let's head over to the bass. And you can program in trig parameters on here just like you would do on on normal trigs. Let's go ahead and plug in some notes. Why don't we do, we'll just do something in C Dorian. So I'm gonna stick with that, and so we'll leave that one in place. We'll have this, we'll bring up the gate a little bit longer. So we'll have it be an 8th note. C Dorian, go down to A sharp or B flat. Actually, we'll leave I'm gonna have this one be an eighth note too. There we go. And let's listen, just listen to the first page. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go and mute everything but that track. That actually doesn't sound that bad. So let's have a little bit of movement here. Maybe lower this last note. This is the second page. We'll hold that one for a while. I turned this way up, but I forgot it only goes to 29. So 1, 2, 3. Let's see what if we go up to them. That sounds great. Yeah, I dig that. And if you wanted to too, we could turn up the envelope on the filter, maybe some make it like a little bit more in your face. Whatever, that's good for now. Now this one, yeah, I want to kind of give it some notes as well. So let's go, leave it at C, and then here we'll stick with the D Dorian thing. Go to G, F. Oops, I was on the wrong one. Whatever, doesn't matter. There's a weird note in there. Let's see if we can identify it. I think it's that one. It's that A. I don't like that. Cool, so that one's there. And we'll stick with the kind of same notes, very limited kind of harmonic palette, but that's okay. For this one too, I'm gonna lower my trig probability down. Let's go 75 maybe. Yeah, let's stick with the kind of same color palette. Paint some happy little trees. Let me just make sure I'm recording. Yes, good. That would be pretty disheartening if I wasn't. We'll stick, kind of hover around. Nice. All right. And then, okay, so this is where we want our melody. We might be a little bit more particular about this, but I'm gonna go ahead and bring this up an octave. Cool, and then here are our trigs. Let's go. I'm just kind of entering in notes. I'm not necessarily being super picky or creative. And then we can adjust them as we go. But I just kind of want to give you an example. Kind of bounce around here for a little bit. See, what other notes? D. That's kind of cool. I'm okay with that. And let's turn down this one. Probably the probability should come down just a hair too, to mix it up. And one other thing I like doing, actually, let's turn everything on. I like going through and just turning down the probability on most of them. We'll leave the kick drum in place, but turn the snare. We'll go that one down to 70. This just mixes it up a little bit. We can put in some conditional locks in too. So this is what we've got so far. Yeah, that sounded great. So modulation, we got to add some modulation in. Oh, and so what I've done here, when I brought the kit in, you know, your modulation comes in as well. So you can see that it already has some modulation in it. One thing that I really like doing, I wanted to point out, is having this first LFO modulating the bit reduction, and the second LFO is modulating the speed of the first LFO. So it kind of makes it, yeah, it just makes it sound a little bit, so it's kind of like modulation within modulation. It makes it kind of cool. And then for my piano sound, I've got the amp volume being modulated, and it's actually being modulated quite a bit. So if we just solo the piano sound, you can hear that kick out like that. And I think that's kind of cool. It's almost the same as the probability functions, but it's being controlled through an LFO. So I think that makes it really neat. All right, so at that point too, you know, we should just put in some of these conditional trigs. I'm gonna turn the piano sound. Let's go, So what this means is first, with a line over, it means it won't play the first time through. Let's go ahead and do that. Actually, you know what? I don't want to do that. There's so many other cool things, but I'm just going to program in some random conditional locks just to see what happens. Yeah, so this goes. Just makes it really sparse. And again, if you wanted to spend more time with it and really tweak it, you could. Sometimes it's fun just to program in things like that. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Let's just set in some random stuff just to make it sound more interesting. Or more, like give it a little bit more space. Can't remember what I did in the last one here, but do that. And then, there we go. That sounds awesome. You know, and then I want to give it some sort of noise. There it is. That's the one that I had. I put in some modulation to have it kind of sound like a wave. Ooh, that sounds great. So for that one too, we want to stick with the Euclidean theme. So the prime number theme. So why don't I do something like that? I'll do 3. And then we'll set in some trig, we'll turn the probability way down in this one. I don't want it to come up very often. And then we'll also put in some conditional locks. There we go. All right, I think that's probably good enough for this demonstration. Let's just give it a final listen through, and this is what I'm actually going to put at the beginning of the video, but here it goes. That's not how it goes, because I gotta do, we're going to turn everything back on. So there you go. That's it. That's Euclidean rhythms. I hope you got something out of this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.